go! I came across a video on YouTube recently that was talking about this gear ratio Gearbox thing, and it's, you know, you can get a gear ratio to have it where, like, you spin something really, like, fast, and then you have something spinning really slowly at the end to not spinning at all. I think there's even a thing, there's like a museum exhibit somewhere, I forgot which museum, but it's a gear spinning at like 100 RPM, I don't know how fast it spins, but then it's a gear ratio and it keeps going down to the end, and then the final gear is set into concrete, because that's how long it takes for the thing to spin, because it's not gonna happen. So, I found the video, and I'm gonna make my own. However, I'm going to do the opposite of that, where it's gonna be I'm spinning something very slow on one end, and it's gonna spin very fast on the other end. I actually managed to find a video that gave the files for it from 3dprinteracademy.com. I forgot the name of it, but I'll link it there in the description of the video. But it's pretty good. I'm making my own gearbox. That's the whole point of this. So I already printed the stand for this thing. I put the file in, and I put it into the printer, and I gotta say this is one of the better prints that I've seen so far. It looks pretty good, but I've printed some of the other stuff, and I'm going to be printing 5 of these gears. Now, I took all the STL files from the thing, and I'm going to put them in the printer, and they're all going pretty well right now. I'm already printing one of the spacers for these gears, and I printed some of the other stuff, but I needed a couple other things to kind of get this thing up and running, which is where I have stuff everywhere around my room, just garbage that I can salvage from. Namely, fidget spinners. I have a collection from like 4 years ago of fidget spinners that I can steal the bearings from. Isn't that just nice? I managed to find 5 ball bearings, and I still have so many of these left. I think I have, well, you know, you got this here, you have 4 of them, no, 3 of them here, and then I have another fidget spinner up there with about 4 more, then I have another one with 4 more. I've got whatever I could possibly need here. People say, don't save stuff years later, you're never gonna need it. Oh, is that true, really? Well, I have 5 ball bearings now, and you don't. Anyway, one of these spacers just finished up, so luckily it's actually pretty much already good to go, so I cut that right off, I cut that down, and then I can just preheat it so I can print another one. I have to print 5 of these things, so I kind of have to go do that, but that's fine, because these things only take about 5 minutes to print, because you know, it's pretty quick, so that's good to say the least. That one's already going on, and that's perfect. And that is right here. It's just a little tiny circle made of PLA plastic, and that's going to go right in between there, and the ball bearing sits right in there, and then I put a steel rod through it. It's going to go great. It only took about another 30 minutes to print the rest of these things, so now that I got these 5, I'm printing the other 2 big spacers over there, and then I'm going to have to start printing some more of these. So now I have a drive gear that I have to print too, which is a little smaller gear that goes in between here. I have to print, as I said, those 2 spacers. I have to print the handle for it, which goes into the base right over here, and then I'm just going to have to go over to a hardware store to buy a steel rod that goes through there, because unfortunately, that's the one thing I do not have. I could use the, you know, I could just print one, but the problem with that is that this has a lot of torque to it, and if I print it in a way that it's not fully made of plastic, which would take a lot of plastic, by the way, the thing would snap immediately as soon as I tried to turn it. Good time all around. I got the metal rod. I went down to my hardware store, I picked it up. It was less than $5. It was pretty much perfect. I have the handle now printing, so that's going to go pretty well. It's right there. It's going to be going on for, I think, another 20 or so minutes. That's going to happen, and then I have to print, I think, 4 more of these gears along with the drive gear, and that should be basically it. I have everything else that I could possibly need, and luckily this fits directly over that, so look at that. Boom, it spins. It's a good time all around. Got gear number 3 right about to be done. It's pretty much going ahead. It's just doing its thing, and then that's going to go, and I have 2 gears to print after that. We got this, and we got that already done. We have this, the handle, and the gear printed. It's going very well. All my spacers are over there. I mean, honestly, it couldn't really be going any better right now. So once that prints, I will be basically putting all of this together tomorrow, because, you know, I'm going to be printing another one overnight. So I'm going to have to do that, and I got my metal rod, which I'm going to cut down to 7 centimeters, I think, something like that. Yeah, it's going to go through that. Good times all around, I'd say. I don't care if that's like the 3rd time I've said good times all around, but you know what? That's just my channel phrase now. It's either good time or some variant of it, but I mean, hey, what are you going to do? It's just kind of how I am. But see that right there? This thing is grooving. It's moving. It's going. It honestly couldn't have really be going much better right now. It's about to finish up. So, yeah. Right as I say it, it is finished. Now to begin the arduous process of taking the thing off. It is a bit of a problem, honestly. It's very difficult to get these things off the build plate, because they like to get stuck. They really just don't want to move. So it kind of takes a bit. There we go. I managed to slip the blade right underneath it. That's one good thing about the clay hobby too, is that I'm able to kind of have all these tools right up and about that I can use to get this thing off. So I kind of just push it underneath and I work my way through until eventually it comes off. And there we go. Now on to gear number 4. Luckily this thing is already pretty hot from the last time, so I just put that over to the little thing there. It's going to go 60 Celsius, then 210 Celsius for the nozzle, which that heats up pretty quickly. And that's good, you know, to say the least. I'll clean this off too, just the simplicity. Boom, right there, it's gone. But this is a pretty good thing. This is a fun project to say the least, because I get to make this thing spin very quickly. Because you go, I don't think I mentioned this. So this thing is a gear ratio of 1 to 241. And that's pretty cool because, well, I can make that go very fast. Every rotation that I put for this handle roughly equivalates to, as said, 1 rotation per 241. You get the idea. Yeah, this thing also has a drill attachment that I can create, which, if I do that, I think you all should be terrified, because I can make this thing spin much faster than that, and by that I mean I can get it to spin over 2,000 RPM. So yeah, it's gonna be pretty fast, to say the least. And off we go. I'm going to be awake for a couple more hours, so I'm probably going to be awake by the time that this one's done, and then I'm going to make the other one while I fall asleep, and it'll be up by the time I wake up. So that means that tomorrow I'll be able to kind of cut this down, and then I'll basically be good to assemble everything. Good afternoon, it is I! The part finished printing this morning when I woke up, so I took it off the printer and it was good to go. Now the only other 2 things I have to do is saw down the metal rod to get it so that it fits the stand, and I also kind of have to get it so that I can assemble everything together. So I'm going to go and cut that down, and then I'm going to come back here and put everything together. Now just to make sure that it fits, look at that, yes it does. 1 down, hot! Pretty violent. With that, we can begin the process of putting it all together. Alright, so I laid out all the pieces here, and I got the little diagram that came with the little thing, because it was a free thing, it was a free purchase. I think that was pretty well worth it, so I'm going to link it in the description in case anyone for some reason wants to make a high, you know, gear ratio, but that's great. First thing we start off is we got to put the bearings in the gears. Now that all the gears have their bearings, I think it's time that we finally assemble this thing. Start with by putting the rods in the end so that we can prepare for the maelstrom of chaos that we're about to create. Yeah, I should probably also mention we put the drive gear in right through the slot here, so this goes in right up through the top, right through the back, and that goes right in there, and then the handle, that just goes right here. It's a good time. This one is supposed to be the one that goes through the first gear and bearings so that it can go to the drive gear so that the thing can turn it, and it yeah, you know, it goes. On the opposite side, we take one of our larger spacers and then we feed that through the secondary rod. I think I'm actually just going to start recording this way so you can kind of see the thing being built sideways, because I think it's kind of stupid to just have you look at this, right? I mean, that's kind of dumb, you know? Anyway, as said, one of the smaller spacers go on this end, and then one of the bigger spacers go right on over here, if you can see. Yeah. You then add another gear and a tiny spacer. And on this side, we get another big gear. Alright, I got it luckily, so this side is now complete. Final thing we have to add is the small spacer and the big spacer that go between right over here and that rod, which I'll put in now. Would you look at that? I put it together. I'm just gonna add some super glue on these sides to kind of make it so that they can go all nicely together, because if this comes apart, I'm gonna be angry. Well, that's all nice and good now. This is all dried up. It's looking pretty good, so the only thing left to do is put the handle in. And there you go, a 3D printed gearbox. See how it turns. Pretty good. I don't really know what the point of me printing this was, but I mean, hey, it definitely worked out, and I'd say that it's pretty nice. You have very slow rotating gear on one end, and then you have very fast rotating gear on the other end. I'd say overall it was a good project, and I have no complaints with it. I mean, the only complaint, I have one complaint. It's that one of the gears is, you know, kind of stripping off the other one, but not to a point where it's going to damage it. It's just kind of like, you know, clicking it. It's fine. Yeah, that about does it. This was a pretty fun project to create, and yeah, I'll leave that little thing in the description. I'll leave the video link, and then you can go into the description and find the files there. It works out pretty well. But aside from that, I'd say that overall this was pretty good. And you know what? I hope that this video was geared towards the correct audience for this.